Okay, imagine you trained 500 and someone asks you, did the training work? You say, yes, it was successful. Then the person further asks, how do you know? Can you prove it? That proof that they want comes from data. So some common data sources in monitoring and evaluation includes attendance registers, surveys, assessment tests, interviews, focus group discussions, beneficiary registration forms, and monitoring checklists. These are what eventually become data sets for analysis. Now let us talk about one of the most important concepts in monitoring and evaluation: indicators. Indicators are measurements, right? They are measurements. They help us to know whether a project is successful. Okay? And there are three types of indicators. Okay? We have output indicator, we have outcome indicator, and we have the impact indicator. So, what are the differences between these types of indicators? Output indicators measure immediate results. For example, if we train women, the output might be number of women trained, number of sessions conducted, number of certificates issued. Output is immediate. Output is immediate. Okay? So then let's move forward to the outcome indicators. Outcome indicators measure change. All right? They measure change. Let's take, for example, the percentage of women who improved digital literacy, or let's say the percentage who passed assessment, or those who had increase in their confidence level. Outcome ask what changed, right? So we said output is immediate. Outcome ask what changed. Then we now come to the last indicator, which is the impact indicator. This is a long-term transformation. For example, was there an increase in income? Was there a growth in the business? Did the project or the training give them better employment opportunities? That is impact. It asks what lasting difference happened. So these are the three indicators. Let's look at a practical exercise, a practical thinking exercise, right? If we trained 500 women in AI skills, listen carefully, please. What would be the outcome? Did you get that? If we trained 500 women in AI skills, what would be the outcome? What would be the what would be the output? What would be the outcome? And what would be the impact? Pause and think, then answer it. Okay, now we are looking at baseline and targets. This is another very important concept in M&E. If you miss this concept, measuring impact becomes very difficult. Baseline simply means where we are starting from. That is the beginning. We may be starting from level 0. If it is a project that has phases, let's say you've completed phase 1 and you want to start phase 2, your phase 2 starting point will be your ending point of phase 1. Do you get that? So it's either you are starting from 0 or you are starting at the end of one milestone. So the end of one milestone can serve as the beginning of the next milestone. All right? So that is baseline. Then target is where we want to go. Where do we want to go to? That is our target. If we have a table that has indicator like women trained, if it is a fresh project, our baseline will be 0 because we are starting from the beginning. Then for this our example, our target is training 500 people, so our target will be 500. Then completion rate, our baseline will also be 0%. Then let's say our target at the end of the day, the completion rate was 85%, not 100%. Then assessment pass rate, our baseline is still 0%, the beginning, while let's say for example our target is 75%. So if we don't know where we started, how can we measure growth? That is why baseline and target is very, very important. So now we are going to be building an M&E framework. Okay, so let's move to our so now we are going to be building an M&E project. This is Microsoft Excel. I'm sure we are familiar with it before now. Okay, this is Microsoft Excel. Let's do some practice. Open Excel with me. I know you know already how to open Excel. So we are going to create a very simple monitoring and evaluation frameworks. So we are going to create 7 columns, which are, now before moving ahead, I would like to explain this. So you have the columns, which are the vertical lines, and you have the rows, which are the horizontal lines. Okay, so we are going to create 7 columns, namely goal, okay, goal, objective, then we have indicator, we have baseline, we have our targets, and we have means of identification, means of verification, and we have a frequency. You see that these things, they are overlapping, so objective is not showing clearly because the characters are more than the space in the box. So what do we do? How do we expand that? We'll come here. So when you have this cross, this double cross, you just double click, so it expands it to accommodate what you wrote there. You do the same for all that needs more space. Okay, so means of identification also needs more space, frequency also needs more space. All right, so what long-term goal, what long-term change are we trying to create? That is our goal. Let's take for example, we want to improve economic empowerment of women through digital skills acquisition. All right, that is our goal. The long-term change we are trying to create. Okay, so that is our goal. Now let's move to our objective. You see, the goal now has really, so now this is our goal. Let me bold this so that, let me bold the top so that we would know the difference. Okay, so our goal is to improve economic empowerment of women. So if you want to edit, you come to this function bar. They call it function bar. So you edit it. Okay, so now what is our objective? That is, what specifically are we trying to achieve? In this case, we want to train 500 women in digital and AI skills. So we put it here, train 500 women in digital and AI skills. So you know how to adjust your column again to accommodate what you wrote. So you double click again, so it has accommodated it. Now our indicator, under our indicator, how will success be measured? How? It's going to be measured by the number of women trained. Number of women trained. I know that you are not going to type number of women trained there. Is the figures that you got that you are going to put here. Okay, so let's double click so that it can accommodate. Now let's move on. What is our baseline? Where are we starting from? We are starting from the beginning, which is 0. What is our target? Our target is where we are going to, which is a 500, right? What is our means of verification? How do we prove that this thing happened? How are we going to prove it? We are going to use attendance register. That's what we are going to use to prove that, okay, the training happened, though this number of people came by the attendance register. So we are going to also look at the frequency. How often are we going to be tracking this? It could be daily, it could be monthly, it could be weekly, it could be 2 times in a month. But for this exercise, we will take weekly. So you can see now we have been able to create an M&E framework, having goals, objective, indicator, baseline, target, and means of verification. The next thing now is assignments. It is your turn